Darryl Jensen. The farm's West Diggora in the district of Diggora West, which is about 25 k's from Elmore. We run predominantly merino ewes with white Suffolk or Pole Dorset rams over them. At the moment we've only got a bit over 500 ewes on, but we're in the process of building that up. We've only been doing this operation for a couple of years, so we'll build up and hopefully we'll get to something like 1,200 ewes. And before that, in our other business, we traded a lot of stock, fat lambs, wethers, that sort of stuff, and didn't shear big numbers. But now it was great to have your own shearing shed and you don't have to ask your really good mates whether you can use their shed. The old yards were squares and the outside of the yards were probably not too bad, but then trying to interact that with what we already had and with these new yards, it wasn't going to happen. So we pulled them out and started whole from scratch. Yeah, very much the same spot. There was a shearing shed here back in the 80s when I shore here. We pulled that down and put a new one in and took the yards down and put new yards in the same spot, yeah. Well, in our other business, we'd had some ProWay gear and I had seen a good bit of stuff on YouTube. And I actually had a conversation with a mate of mine who got some ProWay yards and a ProWay shearing shed. And he said, if you're going to build one good set of yards for yourself, he said, make sure you go ProWay. So I took that advice on, and which was probably about 18 months ago, I suppose. Got in just before the rush. So these yards here have been finished since October last year, so they're 12 months old now. Yeah, Joe came down and had a look first and we had a conversation about what we wanted, sort of just roughed out a bit of a design. And then Tim came and pegged it right out and they were terrific. They don't tell you this is what you want, they ask you what you want and then they work with you to get that. But they also say to you, well, this is what we've been doing. And I said to Joe, I said, you blokes are building these every day, you'll get the new ideas. But they're more than happy to take on board if you've got some suggestions. They're more than happy to run that past the designers and see if it's possible to do, so, which I found was excellent. On the site preparation, make sure you get that done. That's really important. So I was lucky enough to get some good local blokes who came out and we put not a lot of dirt right here, but over the other side it's at least a foot higher, whereas I thought this ground was pretty flat. So we built it up so that we did have somewhere where we could drain the water to, and then carted a bit of blue rock into just to help hold the clay and loam together. It turned up in 2 B-double trucks and it was just like this whopping great big Meccano set and you wonder where the hell is it going to happen. We had this great contractor, Jared Maher, that had built many yards for ProWay and he was just terrific to work with. And Scott Sheagold built the shearing shed and this was his first actual shearing shed. Scott was the same, like he had a plan to work with and eventually it all went together and you look back and think, this is great, it's terrific. Mick rocked up and we were almost getting to the end of the project. There was a couple of things we weren't sure of and Scott and I had said, oh, we'll just do this. Bit of a cocky type job. And Mick wouldn't have a bar of it. He said, no, we're going to get a panel there. I've got a little gate there, that'll fill that hole in there and we'll put a post there. And the next day he had the panel here so we're not held up. And yeah, Scott put it all together and that's how it was. We talk about the bulk handler and someone said to me, if you're going to build set yards, make sure you get them. It's the best thing ever. And I tell my younger mates it's time to put one in now and don't wait until you're 60 before you put it in. I just find that you can work away all morning and then by dinner time you're right to go and do the next job, which wouldn't have been the case if I'd have done them through the long race. And you use it for more things than what you thought you might. All the backlining, of course. This morning we just moused some ewes, all the needling, the drenching, all that is all done through the bulk handler and when you learn how to use it properly it's just an amazing bit of gear. By the end of the day, you turn over your shoulder and they're all done. It's terrific. So, a couple of dogs and myself and I can do everything that I need to do on my own. Trace comes and helps me when I'm doing some needling and that sort of stuff, drenching and needling of the lambs and sort of stuff. She'll come and give me a hand, but I can draft a mob of ewes and lambs up for shear and that sort of stuff, do all that on my own. They just flow well and the sheep stay in the yards, which is a great thing. You don't have to go and chase that one that jumps over the fence. I spoke to the shearers before we built the shed and they said to me they were keen for a horseshoe shape raised board, and so far for the 3 days that we've shorn they've all been really happy with it and the people that are working in the shed have been happy with how it's all gone too, so that's a big plus. Last week we shore, but I spent most of my time out in the yards doing other jobs, but when I got back in there later in the day they were all happy and everything had gone well, so it was good. Fiberglass flooring I think is amazing stuff. You can put ewes in that are still a little bit on the full side and the sheep shit just goes straight through. It's great stuff and they walk on it well and it's comfortable to walk on. We made our slant on our catching pens a bit higher than normal, and so far the shearers have been all very happy with it. The contractor said to me that he doesn't notice it so much when he's actually in there catching sheep, but he said he notices that the next day he goes to a shed that hasn't got it, how much difference it's been. So that was a good wrap. I've got to say that the whole experience, there's been a couple of hiccups, but COVID hasn't helped trying to get things organised when you couldn't get from one state to the other, and which made it a bit more difficult. But really, in the big picture, it was no drama whatsoever, and they were great to work with. And like I said, if we did have a problem, they dealt with the problem. They don't just say, oh no, that's how it is, or no, you must have made a mistake. It's, yeah, righto, we'll get it sorted. And they did get it sorted without any fuss. That was terrific. Well, I've had people that love to come and have a look at it, and same thing, you know, COVID's held that up a little bit, but they've rang me and said, do you mind if I come and have a look? And I said, no, by all means. When you're using them all the time, you probably don't notice it because you're just used to them, they're just working. But if you go from your yards to someone else's yards, well, that's when it stands out. You know you can come here and you're not going to have to worry about the bit of hay van or the bit of wire breaking and the two mobs getting boxed together. I've got some really good friends that at some stage will have to do something. I said, I'm going to get a fistful of pamphlets and come and drop them around on your table so you can get a handle of this. Even if you can just start, make a bit of a plan and then just build on it as you can. So, yeah, so no, all for it, all for it. Yeah, couldn't recommend them higher.